Good afternoon, it's Lee Cassidy from Tactile Technology, and again we're here with one of our In the Hot Seat. It's slightly different this week because I've actually got someone I know fairly well because it's actually my daughter. So we'll bring in Sarah. How are you, Sarah?
Hi, Dad. Lee. Hello.
We had this conversation before we started what we would actually do, didn't we? So let's not worry about it too much. But let's start off with a bit of background then. So I know quite a lot about you because I was there when you first came into the world, and I've followed you all the way through, haven't I? So I know quite a lot, but not everybody knows that much about you and where you were born, what happened. So tell us people a little bit about where you were born, what your life was like as a child, maybe a bit of education, and what you plan to do with yourself.
Yep, sure. Okay. So hi everybody. Yep, my name is Sarah Cassidy. As Lee said, I'm his daughter. I have just turned 38, so a bit of life experience behind me now. I was born in Grimsby. Obviously, accent not there at all. We didn't really live there.
Grimsby Maternity Hospital.
Yes, lovely place that I don't remember at all. I think it was just kind of a flying by hospital because my dad was in the RAF at the time. So I'm guessing Dad was the closest hospital to where you were based at the time.
Yeah, so RAF. We were at RAF Binbrook at the time on the original Lightning aircraft. So the one that used to accelerate vertically, so quite an interesting aircraft. So yeah, there actually was an RAF hospital there originally because that's where your sister was born.
Yes.
But the hospital had closed because they were starting to close down the military hospitals at that point in time. So you had to go to a civilian hospital, which was Grimsby at the time.
Exactly. So no offence to anybody in Grimsby, I just don't know anything about it. It's on my passport. I know where it is. But technically I have to say that's where I was born because it was. Kind of early life, we moved around several places. Marham and Albrighton being kind of the main ones that I do. Oh, in Germany as well. Sorry.
Barder School. Remember Barder School in Germany?
Barnes-Wallis School.
Oh, Barnes-Wallis it was you went to, wasn't it? But not Barder.
Moved there, I think, when I was about 3 years old and came back from there when I was about 6, as I recall. I remember the name of the school. I remember I could speak a tiny little bit of German. That's completely gone out the window now. But again, I was very young. I think I can remember say how to ask people for the time, which is spätes es.
That's it. How late is it? It directly translates to, which means what time it is.
Yeah. Yes, and then from there we moved back to the UK, so when I was about 6 years old, where we were based in RAF Marham.
Yeah, near King's Lynn in Norfolk.
Norfolk Way, yep. Again, this is obviously moving around different schools as well. I think I was young enough at that time for it not to be too much of an issue, because when you're a bit younger, it's a bit easier for you to kind of make friends. You don't really care as much or talk to anybody on the playground. And then the final kind of stop, if you like, in our journey from moving around from RAF places was Albrighton, which was near Wolverhampton, hence where the accent has started to form and take place. And stuck with me forever.
Yeah, because I was stationed at RAF Cosford, part of the M54, for 3 years, 93 to 96, and that was our last jaunt in the forces, wasn't it? And then after that, life stabilised a little bit because we bought a house in Birmingham, and you moved into Birmingham, and worked on the accent even more.
Yeah, exactly, and here we are. So yes, even though, as I say, technically I was born in Grimsby, I would say more, I feel like, up Brummie. It's been most of my life, basically. Yeah. So yeah, we moved to Birmingham when I was about 9 or 8.
Yeah.
Again, I'm recalling these hazy young days. So from there, as I say, I moved again to another primary school, but luckily kind of had most of my sort of secondary education I did change schools, but that was through choice, in pretty much one school from about year 8 onwards. So that was kind of a nice kind of stable approach to my education rather than having to kind of move around. From there, kind of decided to go on and do A-levels, which actually took a little bit of a gap due to kind of some illness that I had for a while, but I did have to go back. I decided to go back and continue my studies in A-levels after having a year out. And from there, went on to Coventry University, where I have my BA 221 honours in communication, culture and media. Now, obviously nothing to do with what I do now.
But the plan was slightly different, wasn't it, at that time?
Yeah. So my original plan was to get into film journalism, and that's what encompassed quite a lot of my course. It was kind of the main area of my course that I loved the most, that I was kind of got the best grades and stuff in, because I just enjoyed it thoroughly. The trouble with film journalism, it's kind of an approach of it's not what you know, it's who you know, to try and kind of get into that kind of medium. And realistically, like most people, when you come out of university, you'll have student debts that you need to pay off. Wanting to kind of, be more independent and kind of live, obviously outside your parents' home at that particular time. With that, obviously, comes financial burdens with that too. So the approach there was to kind of look for kind of jobs I could find at the particular time, just to kind of sort of pay off the bills and see kind of where I went from there. So again, it's probably a similar story to kind of most people's journey outside of university, sort of to find that job. I kind of did a few odd temporary jobs in recruitment and facilities management, but 12 years ago, in March, 10th of March actually, which I can't believe has been 12 years ago, I applied for a job at a company called Tribal Group. So leads me on to kind of where
it's a long time. I didn't realise you'd been there that long. Yeah, it is quite a long time, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's kind of sort of my main sort of career as a professional career, whereby I've sort of started in some roles and kind of transitioned into where I am now. It's been a company that I've actually obviously really enjoyed working for. They're really good at kind of promoting within the company as well, and offering sort of CPD and development, and encouraging you to kind of have that vision and stretch as to kind of where you want to go, in order to kind of keep the people that they have working for the company. So there's quite a few people that I do actually know that have been with Tribal for 20 plus years. So yeah, it's a company that does tend to kind of have long term. Obviously, we have other people that don't stay for as long, depending on what they want to do. But yet, my own kind of personal time there has been 12 years. Yes, on the 10th of March.
So tell people a little bit about Tribal Group, because not everybody will know Tribal and what Tribal does. And then what would be good is to talk about your journey, why you've been at Tribal, the different roles you've had, and the changes. What have you had to learn? What experiences help you benefit as you've moved forward in your positions there.
Sure. Yeah. So for those of you that have not heard of Tribal Group before, we are a private sector company for the public sector in education, very, very specifically in education. Okay, so what we do, we work within 3 main education sectors. So higher education, further education, and work-based learning. And now what we have are kind of in-house developers, analysts, testers, product owners that create and develop tools for education. So within universities, colleges, adult learning councils, training providers. So basically these are student information solutions, as well as student experience tools as well. So we have a student app. We also have a CRM as well that kind of speaks to the rest of our student information systems. And basically, each of these products have been basically developed in mind with the specific the specific education sector that it's developed for. So we've got particular products that are specific to HE, particular products are specific to further education, etc. And we are, as far as I know, particularly in universities, the market leader for a higher education in the student record system.
Is that just in the UK, or is that outside of the UK as well?
As well, we are global. Yep. So we have a presence over in New Zealand, particularly with one of our further education student record system called EBS. It's we have all of the polytechnic colleges over in New Zealand from a student record solution point of view. Also in Australia, and also now most recent in Singapore as well, in higher education with our student record system as well. So yeah, we have got a global presence. Yeah, and we are a global company. We work globally as well. We work very closely with our APAC team, so it's not just kind of being segregated. We obviously, with the power of working remotely, we do also work quite closely with our other teams over in APAC, which I was hoping to get to go over and visit before the pandemic hits. I was quite excited about this. I think I spoke to you about it a few times, but obviously,
was it 6 months you were going to go for?
No, a month. No.
A month. I thought it was longer that you were planning.
I told him 6 months.
Yeah, I thought you'd said 6 months, but my memory might be going. I'm getting a bit old.
It could have been up to a month, but yeah, unfortunately, and we've also found, like everybody else, or many companies anyway, that the power of remote has actually worked quite well. So in terms of sort of carbon footprint, etc., it doesn't always make sense just to send somebody over. So.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So what about your journey at Tribal then? So what was the first role you had, and what were the key things you had to do?
Okay. So the first role that I had, I applied to be I can't remember the name of my first job title there. It was a help desk coordinator. Yeah. Okay. So we've got an internal IT help desk within Tribal. My first role, because again, it was kind of a role out of university, was to kind of log calls that needed to be sent on to our IT engineers, do things such as, raise and order equipment for new starters or, current people that have with them, such as laptops, desktops, any kind of equipment like that. So it was a busy job, because you can imagine it's an internal help desk, and there was always something to do, and also kind of offer some first line support as well. I have to stress, I'm not technical in the slightest, so I kind of ended up going down a similar job kind of in tech that's similar to my dad.
Yeah, because after I left the forces, I went into more like providing tech support and pre-sales activity, and then I moved into more direct sales. But it's very similar to what I was doing when I first left the forces.
And I'm sure it's a massive surprise to you because of my IT skills that you're more than aware of.
You can be a little bit technically challenged at times.
Not as bad as some. I'm definitely better, but so that was for about 2.5 years. I really enjoyed it. That was at our office in Birmingham. And then moving on from there, I actually took a role within our Sheffield office. So I moved to work for a bit more of a technical role for our customer support team for our EBS help desk. So again, as I said, we've got different solutions within our product suite, and we have specific help desks for customers that use that, because obviously you need to have specialist knowledge, and rather than kind of being a general help desk. So I worked on the support team for about 2 years, and again a bit more technical, which I don't know if it suited me or it didn't, but again, I enjoyed it. It got me kind of into my next role where I am, because I had to learn the product basically from the ground up. And then following on to that,
I remember some conversation about SQL Server in the past. That helped SQL Server. But it seems like you've developed from there anyway and built your skills.
It was an interesting couple of years, but I can't take away the kind of the skills that I learned from that. Some of them begrudgingly, but it's fine. And then I moved over to pre-sales initially as a secondment, and I have been within the pre-sales team. I'm now the pre-sales manager, but I was in the pre-sales team as a consultant for 8 years. So I started off as a pre-sales consultant and then moved on over to senior pre-sales consultant, obviously as my kind of skills developed. And it's still kind of the main area that I work in currently, but as well as being pre-sales manager.
Okay, so how did it change from being a pre-sales consultant to the management side? What other skills did you have to develop? What other challenges do you have as a manager rather than being just a consultant?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I like the variety of the role still. Obviously, you know, it comes with sometimes a bit of kind of bandwidth challenge depending on kind of how busy you are. But
Yeah.
it's learning. It's definitely learning to be more organised. Originally, though, again, I was used to having a busy diary as a pre-sales consultant anyway. The role has changed in that sense as well. So a couple of things really from a pre-sales perspective, and we'll talk about the management side of things. From a pre-sales perspective, it was a role whereby we would kind of have a mix of either going out to see customers to do product demonstrations. For me, you'd be, again, a specialist in a different area. But again, I'll talk about how that slightly changed as well. For me, my bread and butter was EBS. That's what I learned from the support team. And obviously then moving over to pre-sales because I had some of that knowledge. Then I started obviously to hone in on demonstration and presentation skills, sales skills, customer relationship skills, etc. Which again I have from working on help desks. Anyway, a lot of the diary would be hectic. It would be going out probably about 3 times a week, maybe more depending on what was going on. Possibly kind of overnight stays in hotels, which is not as glamorous as it sounds. And those of you that travel will absolutely understand this. Hotel staying it's fine. And then possibly a day in the office. So we've got offices within Tribal dotted around the UK, obviously, as well as in the APAC region. So Bristol, Nottingham and Sheffield were kind of the main ones that I would visit. So the Sheffield office is where our main developers for EBS and our analysts that would traditionally sit. Again, a lot of us are remote now, but I'd go into there, basically pester people about my laptop if something had broken or get some help. And then, say, for example, a Friday, if I was lucky, might be a day working from home, which I used to absolutely love. I think some of that's worn off a little bit with at home all the time. I still enjoy kind of the flexibility of it, but yeah. So again, it would be a hectic diary like that in the sense where I would have to be organised. It would come, you know, with kind of, it's never a traditional 9 to 5 role, again, which I don't mind. You know, you put the hours in different places. But again, it's just that I love the variety of it, working the opportunity, and also, you know, if you kind of working on a good opportunity that you might have been involved with from start to finish, for example, promoting it through a webinar, working on a tender document, which again can be very detailed and obviously time constrained, and then, you know, going out and doing maybe a 2-day, some days a 1-week presentation of the product that has sometimes been marked and specific to the agenda. When you kind of have the outcome of that being that you've kind of won that opportunity, been successful, you know, it's a great feeling, and you feel like all your kind of hard work has been, you know, it's been worth it, it's paid off.
Yeah. Do you get involved in an implementation at all, or is it handed over to an implementations team?
No, not as such. What we do, and it's something, again, as a manager, and we're all, actually, my team are really good that we do this, is we have good working relationships with the rest of the wider teams within the business. So that could be, as I say, obviously we've got a team of pre-sales people. We work globally. We also work very closely with the main kind of sales guys, the sales directors, also the marketing team, the product team, because again, we're out there talking to customers. We might have feedback on the product that maybe they could fit into a sprint or an upcoming release, etc. And other teams such as the analysts and testers. And it's really, and also from implementation point of view, the professional services team who will carry out the implementation. So again, we have good working relationships with those teams as well. So even though we're not necessarily involved in the implementation, we might help out with them. For example, if it's been a while since a customer's sort of procured the product, and they might want us to do a kind of reminder session, you know, of a demonstration overview of a particular part of the system, or an overview of the whole system that they bought. You know, if they've again not got the capacity to do it with time constraints, etc., these are things that we will help them out with. But the actual kind of nitty gritty of the implementation and the configuration, etc., that's very much with the specialist professional services team.
Okay, so on the management side, then, what's different about your role from doing, because you didn't have any management responsibilities in the past? So how have you developed those, and what are the key ones you think a manager needs?
Okay, well, key one if we talk about sort of how the roles change in a second, a key one for being a manager, I think, lead by example. Absolutely, particularly because we are a team that's very high pressure. Again, we have a lot of times whereby we've got a lot of deadlines that we need to meet in one go. And so that could be quite easy to become quite stressed. And it's also, again, about being open and honest, making sure that you're approachable as well for your team to feel like there's something that they need to kind of talk to you about, or they need help with. I'd like to think that I'm an approachable person, approachable manager. Again, organisation, it's definitely something that I've had to. I would say that my pre-sales consultancy life was what I'd call organised chaos. I know what was going on, but now I have to be very organised, because it's not just commitments to my own objectives and deadlines within Tribal. It's also ensuring that you're helping your other team kind of get there. If they need things from you, then obviously you need to kind of make sure that you're responding and organising on top of those things in order to help them as well. Also as well, within, I think a good attribute is always to kind of encourage stretch within our team. I'll always kind of, if there's anybody that needs any kind of help with kind of additional CPD, etc., I'll try and find a way for them to kind of develop. One of the things that has definitely changed from me moving from being a pre-sales consultant into a manager, again, obviously there's people that I have to manage. We are now a team. We used to kind of be split into two different types of pre-sales teams. So there'd be the further education or vocational learning pre-sales team, and then there would be the higher education pre-sales team. But now we kind of work together. We have a global head of pre-sales that kind of heads everybody up within that team, and then two pre-sales managers. One of them is myself, and then the rest of our team. So the difference being that we would have specialist pre-sales consultants. So you'd be the pre-sales consultant for EBS, you'd be the pre-sales consultant for MATAS, etc. Actually now we are kind of developing skills whereby we're starting to share kind of knowledge and resources across the board. So that means as well, actually kind of thinking about when you're, for example, doing a product demonstration, we're thinking about approaching them as sort of a solution-based presentation, not just it being a specific product demonstration. So obviously with that, the addition is obviously learning new products and kind of thinking about the whole story, rather than it just being niche bits of what the systems do, etc., if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people are trying to do that anyway with their own businesses as they move forward. They're trying to get away from this silo mentality where things sit in different silos, to actually having everything seen as one, coherent piece of infrastructure across and service delivered off it. And that's what people are trying to achieve. So moving down that route, with your structure for your pre-sales is the right approach to take anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And again, it's kind of knowledge is power as well. I guess this is something that we're encouraging for all of our pre-sales team to do. Obviously, if they want to, if they've got the bandwidth to want to do so, is get yourself kind of clued up on other areas, because it's only going to be helpful for you. And also, as I say, we can approach demonstrations, presentations, whereby we're actually thinking more about what's the problem for our customer that we're trying to solve in this demonstration, by showing a variety of solutions that all work together, or is it just one part of it? So I think it's kind of
there's a new term came out, wasn't it, a few years, about outcome-based delivery. So it's looking at the outcome, what the customer gets for it, rather than just selling the components that do it. It's like a car. You have a car to get from A to B, but you could also use a train, you could also use a plane, you could use a bicycle. The mechanism that you follow doesn't matter. It's the outcome that's more important, isn't it? You're getting, managing a large volume of students and understanding where they are in their learning process. That's what it's about. How do I make sure that everybody knows where they're going to be for their particular lectures? It's focusing on that outcome-based piece, which is more important. Definitely. So let's change tack a little bit then. Okay. So you've been at Tribal a while now, and most of us have had some quite big challenges the last couple of years with COVID and the pandemic. So how has it affected you personally, and how has it affected Tribal as a company? I'm sure there might be positives as well as negatives in there. It sounds like most of the organisation are now quite happy working in this hybrid environment a bit more. So tell us a little bit about some of the pieces there that you've experienced the last 2 years and how it's affected you and also Tribal.
I think if again, just being completely honest, the main thing sort of is just the trying to sort of, I don't know, work remotely all the time well and learning to switch off, which is, I think, the main problem that I have. Again, it's about this kind of leading by example thing that I always try and sort of say to my team is make sure you're getting a break, make sure you're having your lunch hour, leave your computer, which I'm sometimes guilty of not doing. And then also, switching on and working through emails at silly o'clock at night. It's just, that's probably a main challenge that I have had. I've got a little bit better with it recently. I make sure I do things like Axel, my dog. We make sure we go out for a walk, and that 45 minutes for my lunch is, us over the field, clear your head, get away from your laptop. So I have been a lot better with that recently. But I think the main challenge for me is constantly working from home.
I think problem when you work from home, there's no boundary, is there?
No.
There's like when you go to an office to work and you come from it, there's a boundary point. So I'm at work, I'm not at work, and you can see that it's blurred when it's actually a room in your own house that you go into, and it's difficult then to change your behaviours because of that, isn't it?
Definitely. And it's also kind of like I would have that transition time if I was driving to a presentation. I'd be thinking about what I've got to do in my car, driving there, getting myself mentally prepared. So when I walked into that room, I'd hopefully, feel ready, and I'd be in kind of that presenter pre-sales mode. And then that drive home, sometimes not great if you're on the M25 and looking at Google Maps going, 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, thinking, okay, right.
Been there.
By the time I'd be at home, I'd be kind of out of that work mode. I'd have digested what happened, had a kind of a mental sort of to-do list. If it was, if I had work the next day, if it was a Friday, I'd be thinking about, what am I having for dinner? And Ricky get me a bottle of wine or whatever.
Yeah.
But when I was home, I was kind of out of that. So that, just trying to kind of, that is, I think for me, been the main challenge that I had is just always feeling like I'm at work. So just sort of trying to build better habits like that. And as I say, for the past, I've done it was one of my New Year's resolutions. It has worked a bit better by making sure that I'm having a break as well. So
and you find that across the team, similar things, difficulties shutting off, and departmentalizing things.
Again, it's something that I just try and encourage. You can't monitor, you can only ask. I can't make people, but I do just try and sort of constantly remind them, look, I know that we're busy, but please take breaks because it's just not good for you. So as a kind of a sort of, I wouldn't say company wide, but I'm going to do this pre-sales wide challenge I think that we've all sort of faced, is the challenge of remotely presenting all the time, because that, even though we would do a bit of a hybrid of remote, depending if it's just a small area of the system we were showing to a customer for like half an hour, it would make sense to go and travel. But now we've obviously switched to fully remote, so you might be doing an all-day demonstration, which can be quite tiring, and that's a challenge in itself. And it's also about trying to kind of keep people engaged. If you feel like you're the one just, down the camera of your laptop into your mic and you're displaying a screen, and just, it's hard to sort of get that, if you're in the room, you'd see people's reactions, you'd see their body language, you could just encourage them to interact with you a bit more. And sometimes I try and encourage it in loads of different ways, depending on what medium we're presenting over. It's usually Microsoft Teams that we use.
That seems to be like taking over now, doesn't it? I know there was a lot of use of Zoom and things in the early days of the pandemic, but it seems to be now Teams is actually replacing Zoom in a lot of places now.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, it also just depends on the audience as well, because sometimes you might be people on there begrudgingly that might not want to see what you're showing them, etc. So there's just different ways, and just as I say, I've got a lot more used to it, and I think again I've got a really good set of pre-sales consultants that are definitely kind of do their best and are brilliant at it. But it has been a challenge to kind of go from constantly, so going from the hybrid to constantly. If you've got an all-day demo, you come off that call, and I'm not going to lie, it's quite wearing, because you feel like it is, the focus is completely on you, whereas you would have had a bit more natural interaction.
So what about with customers? Has it become more of a challenge, to, maybe not to get things over the line and sell it, but actually do the implementation with
No, yeah,
limited number of people being available to do it, limited skills and things? Because
yeah.
things have changed dramatically, I think, over the last couple of years.
Yeah, one actually, to be honest, it was something that traditionally our professional service consultants would go out on site and they'd spend however long there going out and fixing stuff, do training, etc. So obviously at the start of the pandemic, it was a bit of a worry, thinking, is this actually going to work? But surprisingly, it's worked really, really well. We've been so busy still, it's not really kind of made any difference really. And also, again, from a sort of a carbon footprint, etc., from a more efficient kind of way of doing things rather than having to, drive up and down motorways, stay in hotels, etc. And also it's easy to kind of find time with our customers that can slot in maybe sections of whatever needs to be done on that implementation timeline or training, and all these things can be recorded, etc. So it's actually worked actually quite well.
Mm. And how are you finding that customers are changing as well, not just from the pandemic perspective, because there's been this drive towards cloud first approach for the last maybe 3 or 4 years, especially in a lot of central and local government, and same in education. There's this drive towards taking software as service and cloud-based services. So has that changed your approach? Are you moving away from doing majority of implementations physically on site to more in cloud services?
Yeah, definitely more from the cloud side of things. It's just the way that things are going. It's kind of moved along a bit more in our kind of higher education space, but it's definitely kind of the way forward for the rest of our customers. So it's what is part of kind of where we're going to go. Not all with some.
Because it brings advantages, but it also brings challenges as well, because it's not quite the same as having your own physical infrastructure. It's brings security issues because, again, it's a public service. So in theory, other people are running on the same infrastructure as you, and you don't really know what. So there's some challenges to it, but also some real benefits. You get away from this business of, I've been in the industry a long time, and in the past, people would look at a 3-year cycle for something, and they'd start the cycle 18 months before the cycle starts, and then they go through it, and halfway through that 3 year, they're doing it again. What we're going to buy next time, and they have to go through all that process. And especially in education, because it's public money majority of the time, that procurement process is long. It's very bureaucratic. There's a lot of efforts, not just from the purchaser, but also for the vendors as well. There's a massive amount of effort, isn't it? You were talking about going through tenders before, and it is difficult, the process. So at least moving away from having to do that for the infrastructure side of things helps both the organization and also the suppliers in a lot of cases as well.
Definitely. And again, kind of we are aware of these challenges. What the approach that we try and take with customers that kind of moving from maybe kind of on-premise to cloud is that we'll run things like discovery workshops with them to kind of work through and make sure that they're happy with what's going to happen, what's going to change, etc. Security point of view, obviously we take this very seriously. These are integral databases for big universities, for colleges, etc. So security is key, obviously.
And there could be quite a lot of personal data in there as well. So because it's an educational system, so protecting that information is very, very important.
Very, very, very. We take it very seriously.
That's it. So what's the future hold for Tribal then? What do you think is going to be the latest and greatest and new things, and do you think things are going to change in the way that you approach things from working and dealing with customers as potentially we get out to the end of this pandemic phase and it's more endemic and we get used to living with it? Do you think that's going to change the way that Tribal Group operates and your team specifically?
Future for Tribal, we always trying to be visionary about kind of where we're going with our product solutions. So in that has to be obviously applicable for what the education sector is asking us and what's going on, and trying to kind of preempt that as well. so that it's relevant for things such as student experience, security, if the type of platform, even its infrastructure, etc., is suitable for kind of where we're going in there. Again, I'm not going to get technical because I can't, but from that side of things, a main thing that we have really been focusing on is, Tribal's product solutions are not just about kind of recording student data in a system. We're very focused on student experience, student well-being, and we've got kind of some key solutions around that. And kind of, so we've kind of think working more towards it sort of being that student experience, which will obviously help that institution recruit those students, etc., keep them there, keep them engaged, keep them retained, help them achieve. So it's kind of like a sort of that 360 thought.
And it's also that because next week, I don't from Monday, it's child mental welfare week starting next week. So thinking about how they're being affected by this current situation, the pandemic, how they're affected by other things through social media and all sorts of other things at the moment. So got apt to be talking about mental well-being and things. But I think in the past it was something that was missed, wasn't it, by a lot of organisations. It wasn't something that people would talk about, and I think we've got to become more open about those kind of things and find ways to support people as well.
Yeah, definitely. From us, kind of the future for pre-sales, again, depending on sort of how things go, we might be a little bit more hybrid in terms of sort of going out to see customers if they want us to see them. But again, we're just trying to be kind of wary of, can we do this more effectively remotely? Other things I say, kind of environmental things like the carbon footprint. Do we really need to be traveling? Do I need to be hopping down the M25 in my diesel car? Those types of things. So I think it might open up a bit more for us as a pre-sales team, which again, it would be nice to kind of get out and see them, but it's actually kind of thinking about, is there a logical reason why we need to go? And if so, then we'll go.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So anything else to tell us that you think we need to know about Tribal or yourself? I think we're just coming towards an end of the conversation now. So anything else you want to throw in or
no, I mean, again, I know that Rachel has put the link for Tribal Group. If you want to have a look a little bit about us and what we do, then fine. Again, I think my LinkedIn details are on there as well. So happy.
Yeah. So Rachel's working in the background. She does all our background production work. So she's popping things up. Also, if anybody's interested in doing one of these interviews, there are details at the bottom. So let us know, and we're always happy to have new people on. Hopefully, you've seen the banner across. We've got a couple more next week. We've got Mitesh on Monday, and we've got Manjinder Kang on Thursday of next week, so join us for those as well. So we try and do it at least once a week, but at times we've got two. I think before Christmas we had 3 in 1 week, so quite a lot of people, because we want people to understand people's journey, like we've gone through with Sarah, a journey from growing up through to where she is today and how that's developed. We also want people to have the opportunity to present their organization and what they can achieve for people as well, and that's part of what we try to do with this. So I did prime you beforehand, but we always have 2 final questions, and the first one is, what's the best meal you've ever had, and where was it and why was it the best meal? So give us that one first, and then I'll go on to the next one.
This is an honest one, and it's probably one that you're familiar with. So in November of 2021, we went to a place called Jorro, which is a restaurant in Sheffield city centre, in the Kelham Island area of Sheffield city centre. It's basically a seasonal tasting menu with all kinds of weird and wonderful combinations that you wouldn't think work together, but do. I'd actually been there previously as well in August with my husband, but based on that, I decided I wanted to take my dad for his birthday.
Yeah, so I had it as a treat for birthdays. I didn't have a bill to pay at the end, which was quite pleasant. So a nice meal, nice wine, because we had the wine flow, didn't we, as we went along as well. Yeah, which was really good. But let's say you picked up the tab, so that was even better.
But again, it was just so lovely. Like, again, the meal itself was brilliant. But it was nice to, as I say, have you up in Sheffield and stay over and be able to treat you for your birthday. So I really enjoyed that one. It's definitely a standout meal that I would say.
Yeah. So what about the second one though? So what's the most adventurous thing you've ever done?
Okay. So a couple of things sprang to mind, but the first thing that popped into my head, and I think it was for one of my birthday presents that my not husband at the time, he could have gone one way or the other, depending on how I reacted to this birthday present. So I think, yeah, we were just about a year together. And he bought me a voucher to do a bungee jump. Now, I can't remember how big it was. It was an indoor one in the Magna. It was quite high to the top of the ceiling, and you had to physically climb off to get to the top and then obviously jump off. And I thought, it's either going to go one way or the other. So I climbed up to the top, and there was a person in front of me who they were trying to, so the guys obviously were at the top and like put you into all your gear and stuff, obviously to make sure you don't go plummeting down. She was supposed to jump up about 4 times, and they kept trying to kind of sort of say, go on, you can do it, you can do it. In the end, she decided she didn't want to do it. So I thought, kind of in a way, it's worse because you've still got to climb back down. Like, so
yeah.
It's
a much quicker journey down if you jump, isn't it?
Exactly. Let's just do it. Let's just jump. And I did, and it was absolutely. I just thought, right, don't think about it, and just go when they say go. And I just went. But it was great. It's so much fun, and based on that, I say I'd like to do one kind of an outdoor one. There's all sorts that you can do, but actually, I was planning to do one over a big river lake in Australia when we were supposed to go, but it's next on the list anyway. But yes, I would say that's definitely.
Hopefully, the future will bring that opportunity for you then.
Yes,
well, thanks ever so much for joining us today. I think I asked you originally about a year ago, but we've just been trying to tie it in, haven't we, and make it work with your diary and everything. So really great to have you on. What I'll do, I'll just shut things down, and if you hang on afterwards, and then we'll have a chat about things. But again, for everybody else, join us. Like I say, next is Tuesday of next week at 2:00. So join us then, and we've also got one on Thursday at 3:00. So please join us then. All of these are on YouTube, so you can go on YouTube and see them as well. You can also see them through LinkedIn, and we also stream into Facebook as well, because there's people around who want to see it from different perspectives. So please do that as well. Anyway, thank you very much, everybody, and we will see you soon.
Thanks.
Bye.